Hey, today I'm talking about the extended universe films of the Spy Kids film franchise. In other words, I am talking about Spy Kids, All the Time in the World, Machete, and Machete Kills. Next up is Spy Kids, All the Time in the World. This is the fourth Spy Kids film. Though 4 isn't actually in the title, there's sometimes the 4D is on the poster, but that's because it's 3D but with the extra D, so like there was Smell-O-Vision stuff in theaters. I unfortunately didn't get the Smell-O-Vision version, watching it on Tubi, but whatever, I'm not salty. The basic premise of this one is it has been a handful of years since the last Spy Kids adventure, and now Jessica Alba plays a spy, but her family doesn't know that she's a spy, and she's pregnant while she's doing spy stuff. But then a year later passes, and now she has a baby, and now she's doing spy stuff with a baby, and that's really fun. And then she gets into some shenanigans, so her stepchildren find out that she's a spy and then try to help her. So it's a light remake of the original, but there's actually a lot more going on with this one. We also get the amazing return of both Carmen and Junie, but more grown up, and that's fun. They're a lot of fun. They're definitely a highlight. Jessica Alba does actually do a really good job of carrying this film. It is definitely silly seeing a spy do stuff with a baby on her chest, but that's kind of the whole conceit of the movie. It's not any more ridiculous than any of the other things in any other movies. I liked a lot of stuff about this movie. It definitely felt like more of a return to form. It's definitely a step up from Spy Kids 3, which I thought was just fine. This one's actually pretty good. I really loved the messaging and ending. It's all about spending time, importantly. The characters were a lot of fun. The story was interesting. My biggest complaint with the film is mainly the two main kids. They're actually not in the movie a ton, and they don't really have a lot of depth. In particular, the girl, she has two modes. She likes to prank people, and she is very annoyed that Jessica Alba is her stepmom. That's all her character is, and it's not that interesting. If I was going to complain about anything else, it'd be that even though I did really like the return of Carmen and Junie, I think we needed just a little bit more info on like what they've been up to, why they had a falling out, them kind of more so reconciling with each other, because they did have like a falling out. That was like a whole thing, but it wasn't super developed. It was just kind of like a couple of throwaway lines. So just a little bit more there would have been great, and also more so developing the two main kids. Though the kids aren't really the main characters, it's Jessica Alba and her baby, and that's fine. I liked her performance. So yeah, I enjoyed this movie a good solid amount, and I would totally recommend it as long as you've seen the first two Spy Kids films first. Those two are amazing and definitely should be watched, especially the second one. The third one is kind of, it's up to you if you want to watch it, but the fourth one is definitely a return to form. It doesn't quite hit the same highs as the original two, but it's still a good solid entry in this series. Next up is Machete. Okay, so Robert Rodriguez is like, no, this is not a spin-off film. And Danny Trejo's like, yes, it is a spin-off film. Because Danny Trejo has the same name in both film franchises. And even though one is like a kid's film franchise, and these two are definitely R-rated, gory, nudity-filled romps. So insanely different genres. I think they still fit together, and I'll get more into how they fit together later. But this film in particular is about Machete. He is a federale in Mexico, and he does some drug bust and stuff, but the cartel stuff doesn't like it, so he ends up having to go to America. But for like a year or so, he still is like dealing with stuff from there because of shenanigans, and he has to go kill a bunch of people, and there's lots of stuff with immigration. That's a lot of fun. Michelle Rodriguez is in this, and she is great. She is a delight. I loved every single time she was on screen. Jessica Alba is basically the other main lead of the movie. She plays an ICE agent. An ICE agent? Get into that later. That's more of a fan theory thing. Headcanon. And just kind of like them teaming up and doing stuff. This movie knows what it wants to be and nails it. Like, it's silly and ridiculous, but also it's so gory and over the top. They don't care at all about like, if there's gonna be gore, there's gonna be gore. And if there's gonna be nudity, there's nudity. And it's great. It's so much fun. And like, there is a plot. There's definitely a plot, but it's kind of more so centered around these like ridiculous action set pieces, which was definitely the correct way to do it. Technically, this is based off of a fake trailer that played in between the two Grindhouse movies that Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino did a few years earlier. So like technically he was just making this movie around the random shots that he created in that trailer, and I think that made for a really interesting, fun, ridiculous time. Like, I think that was definitely the correct way to go. So yeah, I love this movie a lot. It was a lot of fun. I would definitely recommend it. You do not have to have seen any of the Spy Kids movies to watch this movie, but the Spy Kids movies are great, so just watch them anyway. And lastly is Machete Kills. This is a 2013 film that is basically just a direct sequel to Machete, though in my headcanon there's a bit of a gap there, but I'll get into that later. The basic premise is there's this bad guy who's doing some bad stuff and they're trying to stop him. This is the first film in this series that wasn't good. It's a noticeable decline in quality. It really just lost a lot of the fun and charm of the first Machete film, and like the story's just not there. I think it really suffers kind of the same issue that Spy Kids 3 does, in that our male lead has no female lead to bounce off of. Because in the first film he had Jessica Alba and Michelle Rodriguez, and in this one Michelle Rodriguez is there, but not a lot. She's barely in the film and doesn't really do a whole lot. And Jessica Alba's just not in the picture anymore. And so, because he didn't have a woman to bounce off of, it was really boring and dull. And like the action set pieces weren't that great. It honestly felt more tame. Like there was less graphic stuff. There was no nudity. But yeah, the individual plots are kind of interesting. Like there's stuff with the brothel that's kind of interesting, but then they're just kind of there doing stuff. There's stuff with this chameleon character, which is interesting, but they're also just kind of doing stuff. It's not really anything. And the main plot is just, I don't know, it's ridiculous, but not in the fun way. The best part of this movie was the trailer that played at the beginning of it for the sequel to this, Machete Kills Again in Space. That was so much fun. It was 10 out of 10, a great experience. A really unfortunate thing is that this movie does not have an ending. It just leads into the third film in this franchise that never got made. So it's just really frustrating because I'm like, I want the conclusion to the story at another fun time, but it never happened, which is a tragedy because it would have been so much fun to be in space. So would I recommend this film? No. You can honestly just like either just watch the Machete, the space trailer and then be done with it, or you don't have to because it's just not good. You can cap off the series at just Machete and end on a good note. Alrighty, now for today's rankings. First up, we got Machete sitting number 47 in the really like section. And then after that is Spy Kids All the Time in the World sitting number 78 in the quite like section. And then bringing up the rear is Machete Kills sitting at number 121 in the meh category. And this is out of a total of 144 old movies so far this year. And before I let you go, I will give you my overall rankings of all 6 Spy Kids universe films. I didn't watch the TV show because that just looks really dumb. Okay, so starting in last place is Machete 2 in the meh section. And then after that is Spy Kids 3 in the 5 spot in the liked category. And then jumping up to the quite like section is Spy Kids 4 at number 4. And then the rest in the really liked category, we got the first Machete in the 3rd spot, the first Spy Kids in the 2nd spot, and the second Spy Kids in the 1st spot. It's so good. I love it a lot. This was really, really fun. I really hope they make more movies or somehow connect more movies to this universe because it's a really good, fun universe. I like this a lot. This was a good, fun time that I would recommend to others, except for Machete 2. That one's just not good. Okay, I'm just going to quickly talk about how the Machete films do actually fit into the Spy Kids universe. This takes place prior to Spy Kids 4. So in Spy Kids 4, it's established that Jessica Alba has been a spy for years and that she has a relationship with Joel McHale. She's having a baby. Maybe it's with him, maybe it's with someone else. So this takes prior to the baby stuff. So she's a secret agent who goes undercover in ice. Perfect. So that's why she's down here. And then at the end of the film, she rides off into the sunset with Machete, but they're not together all the time. She actually has to go back home and be with Joel McHale for a while. So the events of Spy Kids 4 happen. And was it Joel McHale that got her pregnant? Or was it Danny Trejo that got her pregnant? Who knows? And then at the end of Spy Kids 2, she's like, yes, I need to appreciate all the time with my loved ones. And so that's why she goes back to Machete. So that's how she's in Machete Kills. That also explains why in Spy Kids 4, Carmen says that Jessica Alba's character is their aunt because she's not their blood aunt, which I thought would be really weird because there's such a huge age difference between Danny Trejo and Jessica Alba that it wouldn't make any sense for them to be actual siblings. But if Jessica Alba was dating Danny Trejo, Trejo, then it works, and she can be the original kids' aunt. It makes sense. Also, the guy who plays Junie is in this as a young adult, and again, he's still a spy, so he's just undercover as a hooligan on the border. That's it. Also, Cheech is in this one as well, and he is Machete's brother, but it's established in the Spy Kids universe that Cheech was their fake uncle and Danny Trejo is their real uncle, so they just took that to mean like they have a brotherly bond. They have that kind of relationship. So that's everything with Machete 1. So Machete 1 takes place, and then it's Spy Kids 4, and then it's Machete Kills, which works pretty much flawlessly. The only things that have to be addressed are Carmen is in this one, and again, she's just an undercover spy working in a Mexican brothel. That works. Spies do that kind of stuff. And then the only other one is Antonio Banderas shows up, but he isn't actually him. Spoilers, he's part of the chameleon. There's a character that has lots of different faces, and it's one of the fake faces is Antonio Banderas, so it makes sense. It's not even their real face. So it's obviously not Danny Trejo's brother. He should have recognized him, but it's fine. He had a mustache on. So yes, both of these films easily fit into the Spy Kids universe because spies go undercover a lot. The only sad thing is that Jessica Alba had an affair with Danny Trejo, so Joan McHale is out a wife again, and that's sad. Otherwise though, perfectly fits.